My name is Daniel. I'm 25 years old, and last summer was one of the most memorable seasons of my life. It wasn't because I traveled far away or because something dramatic happened. It was special because it was simple, and sometimes simple things leave the deepest memories. I had just finished a long semester at university. My head was full of economics theories, endless assignments, and too many late nights at the library. When summer arrived, I wanted something different. Most of my friends already had plans. Some went to Mexico, others visited family in New York, and one of them even went to Europe for the first time. I didn't have the money for a big trip, but I also didn't want to stay home all summer. One night, while scrolling on my laptop, I suddenly thought, what if I go to Austin, Texas? I had never been there before, but I had heard so much about it. The music, the food trucks, the parks, the lakes, the relaxed atmosphere. It wasn't far from my town in Oklahoma, and a bus ticket was cheap. That was it. In less than 10 minutes, I made my decision. I would spend the summer in Austin. I packed light, a backpack and a small suitcase with clothes, my laptop, a notebook, and running shoes. The bus ride took about 8 hours. I sat by the window, headphones in, watching fields and small towns pass by. By the time we arrived, the sun was setting. Austin greeted me with warm air and the sound of music. No joke. The first thing I heard when I stepped off the bus was a man playing guitar on the corner, his hat on the ground for tips. I smiled and thought, this city already feels alive. I had booked a small room in a shared house near Zilker Park. The house was old, painted light blue, with a big oak tree in front. My landlord, Mrs. Green, was cheerful and kind. She handed me the keys and said, "You'll like it here. Everyone in the neighborhood is friendly." That night, I sat on the porch with a glass of water, listening to crickets. It felt like the start of something good. The next morning, I walked to a coffee shop called Morning Roast. I ordered a black coffee, opened my notebook, and wrote, Day 1 in Austin. Goal: make this summer meaningful. How? Explore, meet people, learn, enjoy. That became my daily rhythm. Wake up, grab coffee, write a few lines, then explore. I walked down South Congress Avenue with its colorful shops. I spent afternoons by Lady Bird Lake, watching joggers and cyclists. I tried food from taco stands, barbecue trucks, even a place selling vegan donuts. At night, the city transformed, bars filled with lights and live music pouring out of every doorway. I didn't go out every night, but when I did, I felt the heartbeat of the city. One afternoon, I wandered into a bookstore downtown. It was quiet, with wooden floors and the smell of old pages. While browsing, I heard a soft voice. "Excuse me, do you know where the poetry section is?" I turned and saw a young woman about my age holding a stack of books. I laughed. I was actually looking for the same thing. That's how I met Emily. She was a grad student at the University of Texas, studying literature. We talked about books, then music, then the city. Before leaving, she smiled and said, "If you want, I can show you some local spots, not the tourist ones, the real ones." I agreed right away. Over the next weeks, Emily showed me her Austin. She took me to Barton Springs, where the water was freezing but refreshing, and afterward we lay on the grass eating watermelon. One evening she led me to a hidden taco stand under a bridge. No signs, no menu, just a man grilling tacos wrapped in foil. They were the best tacos I'd ever eaten. We went to backyard concerts, jazz nights in small bars, open mic poetry readings. I wasn't just seeing the city, I was living it. Of course, I needed money, so I found a part-time job at a bike rental shop near the river. The work was simple, giving helmets, fixing chains, explaining routes to tourists. The owner, Mr. Harris, often said, "A bike ride tells you more about this city than a car ever will." I met tourists from Europe, families from Texas, students on break. Every conversation felt like a small story. The job didn't pay much, but it gave me experiences, and that was worth more. Life soon settled into a rhythm. Mornings with coffee and my notebook, afternoons at the bike shop, evenings either quiet on the porch or out listening to music with Emily. I felt balanced, alive, and calm. I wasn't rushing or anxious about deadlines. I was just living. In July, a heavy storm rolled through. Rain poured down, thunder shook the windows, and the street outside turned into a river. The power went out. I lit a candle and sat in the dark, listening. Suddenly, a knock at the door. It was Emily, soaking wet, holding a bag of popcorn and 2 bottles of soda. "I thought you might be bored," she laughed. We sat on the floor eating popcorn by candlelight, talking about our fears, hopes, and the funny little details that make us who we are. It was one of the simplest nights, but one of the most beautiful. Time passed quickly. By August, my summer was ending. On my last week, Emily and I climbed Mount Bonnell, which overlooks the city and the river. We sat quietly, watching the sunset paint the sky pink and orange. "I'll miss this," I said. She nodded. "The city will miss you too." There were no dramatic promises, just gratitude for what we had shared. Back in Oklahoma, autumn was waiting. The air was cool, the leaves turning yellow. The quiet streets felt different after Austin. I unpacked slowly. My suitcase still smelled faintly of barbecue smoke and summer air. Classes started again, and I returned to lectures, assignments, and campus routines. But inside, something had changed. I was calmer, less restless. Every morning, I made coffee and read 1 page from my Austin notebook. Just 1 page, about Barton Springs, about a taco stand, about Emily. It reminded me that life didn't need to be fast. It just needed to be noticed. I also began walking more slowly across campus, without headphones, just listening to footsteps, conversations, the sound of leaves. Even my part-time job as a delivery rider felt different. Before, it was just a way to make money. Now, I noticed the stories behind each delivery. A man buying flowers for his anniversary, a student ordering textbooks, an old woman who always gave me water. Each small story found a place in a new notebook. In October, I received a letter. A real letter, handwritten, from Emily. She wrote about her classes, new bands, poetry nights. At the end, she wrote, "Summer feels far away now, but thank you for being part of it. Austin is still alive and busy, and whenever you return, the city will be waiting." I read it 3 times and kept it inside my Austin notebook. Winter arrived with early sunsets and freezing air. Most evenings I stayed home with tea and assignments, but sometimes I went to the river just to stand there, hands in my pockets, watching the slow water. That's when I realized summer had given me experiences, but winter was giving me time to understand them. I wasn't the same person anymore. I was more grateful, more patient. On New Year's Eve, I made only one resolution: live with the same curiosity I had in Austin. Spring slowly returned. The first warm day, I noticed students on the grass again, a guitar under a tree, a frisbee flying in the air. It reminded me of Austin, and I wrote in my notebook, "Warm air always brings people together." That semester, I joined a small study group with 3 classmates. At first, we focused only on assignments, but soon our meetings turned into real conversations about movies, music, and travel dreams. One evening, Sarah, one of the group, said, "We should take a trip after finals. Even just a small one." I smiled. The idea felt familiar, like another Austin waiting somewhere ahead. I also started running again. At first, short jogs around the park, then longer runs by the river. Running cleared my head. One Saturday morning, after finishing 5 miles, I sat on a bench, sweaty and tired but calm. I realized I hadn't thought about deadlines once. It was just me, the path, and the morning sun. In April, Emily called me from a cafe in Austin. Her voice was cheerful. She told me about a poetry reading she joined and a new band she liked. Then she asked, "Will you come back to Austin this summer?" I hesitated. School was busy, money was tight. But hearing her voice brought back that spark from last summer. "I'll try," I said. "I really want to." At the end of April, our professor returned our essays. Mine had a note at the bottom. Clear, thoughtful, and personal. Excellent work. I wasn't usually the top student, but this time I felt proud, not just of the grade, but because I knew my thoughts had been shaped by real experiences. The bike shop, conversations with strangers, Emily's letter. That summer in Austin was still alive in me. As May arrived, I thought again about the summer ahead. Not with pressure, not with big expectations, just with curiosity. Where would I go? What stories would I collect this time? I didn't know yet. But I did know one thing. Life becomes richer when you pay attention. And that lesson, I carried with me everywhere.